Jiho Kim held his father's hand as they walked through the grand halls of Starpoint Station. The 8-year-old boy had never seen so many aliens in one place. His eyes grew wide at the sight of tall, blue-skinned beings and short, four-armed creatures rushing past them. "Dad, look at that one." Jiho pointed at a floating ball of light. Taewoo Kim smiled at his son. "That's an orb elder. They're made of pure energy." As Earth's top diplomat, Taewoo was proud to bring his son to this important meeting. It was the first time humans were invited to the Galactic Council's main station. After 20 years of talks, Earth might finally join the Council. "Stay close, Jiho," Taewoo said. "We don't want to get lost." But Jiho was too excited. When his father turned to speak with a green-skinned diplomat, the boy spotted something shiny down a side hall. No one was watching. He let go of his father's hand and slipped away. The side hall opened into a round room. In the center, on a crystal stand, sat a glowing purple object shaped like a shell. It gave off a soft hum that seemed to call to Jiho. "Wow," he whispered, stepping closer. Without thinking, he reached out and touched it. The shell flashed bright. Alarms blared through the station. Jiho stepped back, scared. "Dad?" he called. Heavy footsteps rushed into the room. But it wasn't his father. 6 tall, insect-like aliens with hard shells, and many eyes surrounded him. They were Vespids, the most powerful species in the Council. "The human child has touched the sacred shell," one hissed. Another grabbed Jiho's arm with a claw. "He has defiled our most holy relic." Jiho tried to pull away. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." The Vespids dragged him back to the main hall where the council meeting was about to start. Taewoo was frantically searching for his son. "Jiho," he shouted when he saw the Vespids holding his boy. "Dad, help," Jiho cried. Taewoo ran forward, but 2 security guards held him back. The tallest Vespid, wearing gold armor, stepped onto the central platform. This was the High Hierarch, leader of all Vespids. "Council members," the Hierarch's voice boomed. "This human child has touched the ancestral shell, our most sacred object. By our ancient laws, it is now defiled." Taewoo struggled against the guards. "He's just a child." He didn't know. The Hierarch ignored him. "The law is clear. When our holy relics are defiled, they must be cleansed by fire. And those who defile them must be part of the cleansing." Several council members shifted uncomfortably, but none spoke up. "No," Taewoo screamed. "You can't. Please." The human ambassador, an older woman named Director Park, rushed to the center. "This violates all diplomatic agreements. He's an innocent child." The Hierarch raised all 4 arms. "The Council's first rule is non-interference with member species' religious practices. This is our way." 2 Vespids brought the purple shell to the center. 2 others held Jiho, who was now crying and calling for his father. "Dad, help me." Taewoo broke free from one guard and punched the other. He ran toward his son, but more guards tackled him to the floor. "Jiho," he screamed. "I'm coming." The Hierarch touched a control on his armor. A circle of blue fire sprang up around the shell and Jiho. The boy's screams echoed through the hall as the flames grew higher. Taewoo watched in horror, pinned to the floor, as his son burned alive. The council members stood in silence. Some looked away. Others watched coldly. When it was over, nothing remained but ashes. The Hierarch spoke again. "The relic is cleansed. The council session may now begin." Taewoo, released by the guards, crawled to the circle of ash. His hand shook as he tried to gather what remained of his son. "This," he whispered, tears streaming down his face, "means war." Captain Jun Park of the human ship *HS Concordia * stood on the bridge, his face hard as stone. The news of what happened to Jiho Kim had reached him minutes ago. Now he had to make a choice. "Sir," his first officer said, "the Council has ordered all ships to stay docked. They want everyone to remain for their investigation." June looked at the message on his screen. The council would take weeks to finish their so-called investigation. He knew what would happen. They would talk and talk until everyone forgot about one human child. Prepare for immediate departure, Jun ordered. We're taking Diplomat Kim and his son's remains home. Sir, that's against council orders. I don't care about council orders, Jun said. Not anymore. 2 hours later, Taewoo Kim boarded the Concordia *. He carried a small metal box containing what was left of his son. His eyes were red, but dry now. The crew stood silent as he walked past. Jun met him at his quarters. I'm sorry, old friend, he said. Taewoo looked up. They stood and watched Jun. All of them. Not one tried to stop it. We're taking you home, Jun said. Earth needs to know what happened. The Concordia broke away from the station, ignoring all commands to return. As they reached the jump point, alarm sounded. Captain. Council enforcement vessel approaching fast. The sensor officer called out. Jun checked the screen. The council ship was twice their size, heavily armed. They're ordering us to power down and prepare to be boarded, the communications officer reported. Taewoo entered the bridge. What will you do? Jun looked at his friend, then at the picture of his own children on his console. What any human would do. He turned to his crew. Set course for the Denari asteroid field. The asteroid field? His navigator asked. Sir, that's too dangerous at our speed. The council ship is bigger, less maneuverable, Jun explained. They'll either have to follow us through or let us go. The Concordia raced toward the thick field of floating rocks. The council ship followed, firing warning shots. They're gaining on us, the sensor officer warned. Hold course, Jun ordered. Everyone, prepare for high-G maneuvers. The ship plunged into the asteroid field. Jun took manual control, weaving between massive rocks. The larger council ships struggled to follow the same path. A loud crash echoed through the Concordia as a small asteroid struck their shields. Shields at 60%, reported the engineer. Behind them, the council ship was having a worse time. Its size made it impossible to navigate the tight spaces. They've been hit, the sensor officer said. Multiple impacts. Jun watched on the rear cameras as the council ship tried to turn around. But it moved too slowly. A massive asteroid smashed into its side. The council ship spun out of control, hitting more rocks before exploding in a bright flash. Silence fell on the bridge. Every officer knew what this meant. The first shot in a war had been fired. Send a message to Earth, Jun ordered quietly. Tell them everything. And tell them we're coming home. On Earth, President Mina Han received the news of Jiho's death with shock. She had sent Taewoo to the council with hopes of peace. Now she sat in her office, watching videos of the incident that council members had recorded. Her military advisors waited for her response. Madam President, General Kang said, "What are your orders?" Mina turned off the video. She couldn't watch Jiho's death again. Call every nation on Earth, she said. I want all leaders meeting within 24 hours. For what purpose? Asked her aide. Mina Han's eyes were cold. To decide how we will make the Galactic Council pay for what they've done. As the Concordia raced toward Earth, other human ships were quietly changing course too. Across council space, human diplomats disappeared from their posts. Something was stirring on humanity's homeworld, and the council had no idea what was coming. Rain fell as they buried what remained of Jiho Kim. The small box was lowered into the ground as billions around the world watched. Not just in person. Every screen on Earth showed the funeral. Taewoo stood silent by the grave. World leaders from every nation surrounded him. For the first time in human history, they all stood together as one. President Mina Han placed a hand on Taewoo's shoulder. Your son will not be forgotten, she said. And what happened to him will not go unanswered. After the funeral, leaders from all nations gathered in the United Earth Assembly. The great hall had never been so full. Old enemies sat side by side. Countries that had fought for centuries now joined hands. "This is unprecedented," whispered an aide to President Han. "Every nation is present. Even North and South Korea are sitting together." Minna nodded. "It took the death of a child to remind us we are all human first." She walked to the podium. The room fell silent. "For 50 years," she began, "we have tried to join the Galactic Council. We followed their rules. We showed them respect. We believed they would treat us as equals." Her voice grew stronger. "We were wrong. To them, we are less than animals. They burned a child alive and called it justice." Images of Jiho appeared on the big screen. Not of his death, but of his life. Jiho laughing. Jiho playing. Jiho hugging his father. "They believed our compassion was weakness," Minna continued. "They mistook our diplomacy for fear. They thought us lesser beings. Today, we correct that misunderstanding." She looked across the room. "I call for a vote. Total war against the Galactic Council. Not just defense, not just limited strikes. Total war until they understand what it means to harm a human child." The vote was quick. For the first time ever, it was unanimous. General Kang stepped forward next. He pressed a button, and the screen changed to show military bases hidden in mountains, under oceans, and on the far side of the moon. "For 30 years," he said, "we have been preparing. While showing the Council our old ships and basic weapons, we built these in secret." The screen showed thousands of advanced warships, weapons that no one knew existed, armor and shields far beyond what Earth had shared with the Council. "This is the Human Contingency Protocol," General Kang explained. "Created after our first contact with alien life. We hoped never to use it, but we were ready if we needed to." A murmur ran through the room. Most leaders had not known the true extent of Earth's military power. "We can launch within 24 hours, General Kang said. "Our first target will be their primary shipyard." President Han turned to Tae-woo Kim. "You knew Jiho best. You saw what they did to him. Should we proceed?" The room grew quiet again. Everyone looked at the father who had lost everything. Tae-woo stood slowly. His voice was soft but clear. "My son loved stars. He wanted to see every world in the galaxy. Not to conquer, but to learn and make friends." He paused, looking at Jiho's picture on the screen. The Council took that dream from him. They took his life and called it right. Now they must learn that every human child is precious to all of us. Tae-woo looked across the room, meeting the eyes of leaders from nations that had once been bitter enemies. "I say yes. For Jiho. For all our children. Show the galaxy what happens when humanity stands as one." President Han nodded. "Then it is decided." "Admiral Lee," she called to a woman in uniform at the back, "prepare your fleet. Operation Retribution begins now." As the meeting ended, a message arrived from the Galactic Council. It warned Earth against any disproportionate response and defended their actions as respecting member species' cultural rights. No one bothered to answer. Earth was done talking. Admiral Sunwoo Lee stood on the bridge of the HFY Retribution *, the largest warship ever built by human hands. Around her, a fleet of 200 ships waited in the darkness of space. They had jumped to a point just outside the sensors of Nexus Station, the Council's largest shipyard. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said her second-in-command. Sunwoo nodded. She looked at the small photo stuck to her console, her daughter's smiling face. Like most officers in the fleet, she had children. That was why they were chosen for this mission. They understood what was at stake. "The Council believes our ships are slow," she said to her crew. "They think our weapons are weak. Today they learned the truth." She pressed a button on her chair. "All ships, this is Admiral Lee. You know why we're here. The Council took a child from us. Now we take something from them." She paused, thinking of Jiho Kim. "Begin the attack. For Earth. For Jiho." The human fleet surged forward, engines blazing blue against the black of space. On Nexus Station, alarms began to sound. Unknown ships approaching. A council operator reported to his commander, a tall Vespid. The Vespid commander looked at his screen, scanned them. The operator checked his readings. They appear to be human vessels, but these are different from any we've seen before. Humans. The commander made a clicking sound of amusement. They've sent their primitive ships, raised shields, and prepared to teach them a lesson. But the shields never had time to fully activate. The first wave of human ships fired strange missiles that passed right through the half-raised shields. They struck key points around the station: power nodes, defense batteries, communication arrays. How did they know where to target? The commander shouted as his screens went dark. The second wave of ships surrounded the station. They fired not at the station itself, but at the shipyard docks where hundreds of Council warships were under construction. On the Retribution Admiral Lee watched as the Council's prized ships exploded one by one. Their defense fleet is launching, her tactical officer reported. Let them come, Lee said calmly. 30 Council ships rose from the station, moving to engage the human fleet. They were the best the Council had: fast, powerful ships that had won dozens of battles against other species. But they had never fought humans who weren't holding back. The Retribution turned to face the approaching ships. It was 3 times larger than any vessel humans had ever shown to the Council. Main cannon charge, reported the weapons officer. Fire, ordered Admiral Lee. A beam of blue light shot from the front of the Retribution. It cut through the leading Council ship like it was made of paper. The ship split in half, then exploded. The Council fleet faltered. Then they scattered, trying to avoid the human ships that now moved with impossible speed. They're running, someone said on the bridge. Let some escape, Admiral Lee ordered. I want them to tell the others what happened here. Within 3 hours, the battle was over. The largest shipyard in Council space lay in ruins. 70% of the Council's new warships were destroyed. The rest would take years to rebuild. As the human fleet prepared to jump away, Admiral Lee opened a channel to all Council frequencies. This is Admiral Sunwoo Lee of Earth, she said. What you witnessed today was just the beginning. The children of Earth are coming. She closed the channel and gave the order to jump. Across Council space, leaders received news of the attack with shock and disbelief. How could humans, a species they had dismissed as weak, destroy their greatest shipyard in a single day? What they didn't know was that Director Haijin Kang, Earth's top intelligence officer, had already activated hundreds of human agents hidden throughout Council territory. As the leaders panicked, key systems across their worlds began to fail. The war had only just begun. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so full. Representatives from all 57 member species packed the room. Fear filled the air like a thick fog. How could this happen? Demanded the Tellari ambassador, his blue skin pale with shock. The humans were nothing, barely able to reach their own moon when we found them. The high hierarch of the Vespid stood tall in the center of the chamber. His hard shell gleamed under the lights. The humans deceived us, he said. They showed us old technology while building weapons in secret. It was a trick. A small, furry representative pushed forward. A trick? Or were we blind? We burned their child alive. What did you expect them to do? The chamber erupted in shouts. Some blamed the Vespids. Others blamed those who had supported human membership in the Council. Still others demanded immediate action. Silence. The high hierarch's voice boomed through the room. What's done is done. Now we must respond with force. The humans have one world. We have thousands. He activated the central display, showing a map of human space. Earth glowed blue at the center. I propose we send our main battle fleet to Earth. We will crush their homeworld and end this war before it truly begins. After heated debate, the Council voted. The decision was made. The largest fleet in Council history would depart for Earth immediately. Over 1,000 ships, carrying soldiers from 20 different species. Commander Zach Turin, a veteran of many wars, was chosen to lead the fleet. He had fought and beaten many enemies in his long career. These humans, he asked the High Hierarch during the final briefing. What should we know about them? The Hierarch dismissed the question with a wave. They have small numbers and limited territory. Their main advantage was surprise, which they have now lost. Their so-called fleet is probably all they have. Commander Turin wasn't so sure. And if they have more surprises, then find them and destroy them, the Hierarch said coldly. Make an example of Earth that the galaxy will remember for 1,000 years. 3 days later, the massive Council fleet jumped toward the Sol system. The ships emerged near Pluto, at the edge of human space. Sensors swept the area. Nothing. No defense systems detected, reported a junior officer. Commander Turin frowned. Scan again. They must have defenses. Nothing, sir. The path to Earth appears clear. This felt wrong to the experienced commander. No blockades, no minefields, no defense stations. Either the humans were fools, or proceed with caution, he ordered. Advance at half speed. The fleet moved forward, crossing the orbit of Neptune. Still nothing. Perhaps they've abandoned their world, suggested his second-in-command. Just then, alarms blared across every ship in the fleet. Energy signatures activating all around us, shouted the sensor officer. Thousands of small devices, previously invisible to their scanners, suddenly lit up. They had been floating in the darkness, waiting. Mines. Commander Turin realized too late. Evasive action. But there was nowhere to go. The mines were everywhere. Activated the moment the fleet passed a certain point. The devices exploded in coordinated waves, not simple explosions. Each mine released a pulse that disrupted shield frequencies, followed by a second pulse that cut through the now unprotected hulls. Hundreds of ships at the front of the fleet were torn apart in seconds. On his command ship, Turin watched in horror as his front line vanished from his displays. Pull back, he ordered. Retreat to Neptune's orbit. The surviving ships turned, engines straining. But the humans had planned for this too. A second field of mines activated behind them, cutting off their escape. They knew exactly where we would enter the system, Turin realized. This was a trap from the beginning. As his ship shuddered from multiple impacts, Commander Turin sent one final message to the Council. The humans were ready. Do not underestimate them again. His message cut off as his ship's power failed. Through the viewport, he could see Earth in the distance, peaceful and blue. It had been waiting for them all along. The remains of the Council fleet pushed forward despite heavy losses. 600 ships had survived the minefield. They regrouped and continued toward Earth, more cautious now. Commander Turin was dead. His second-in-command, a tall Vespid named Krax, took control. Krax was angry and wanted revenge for the trap. We still outnumber any fleet the humans could build, he told his captains. We will not be fooled again. As they crossed the orbit of Mars, their sensors detected movement. A small group of human ships appeared, only 20 vessels in total. That can't be all they have, Krax said, suspicious. Our scans show no other ships in the area, reported his sensor officer. This appears to be their defensive force. Krax studied the human ships. They were impressive, large and heavily armed, but only 20 against 600. It made no sense. The human fleet was led by a single battleship. On its bridge stood Commander Jihun, one of Earth's best tactical officers. They spotted us, Jihun told his crew. Prepare for Phase 1. The human ships moved into attack formation and fired a single volley of missiles. Most were destroyed by Council defenses before reaching their targets. A weak attack, Krax observed. They cannot hope to win like this. He ordered his fleet to advance. The human ships fired again, hitting only a few Council vessels. Now, Jihun ordered, begin the retreat. The human ships turned and ran. They moved fast, heading toward Saturn. "They're fleeing," Krax announced with satisfaction. "Chase them. Don't let them escape." Some of his captains were uncertain. "It could be another trap," one mourned. "What can 20 ships do against our fleet?" Krax demanded. "Follow them." The Council fleet pursued the humans through space. The chase continued for hours as they approached the rings of Saturn. Jihoon watched his screens closely. "Almost there," he said to his crew. "Is everyone in position?" "Yes, sir," his communications officer replied. "All platforms are ready." The human ships suddenly slowed and scattered as they reached Saturn's rings. The Council fleet followed, eager for the kill. "We have them now," Krax said as his ships closed in. But as the Council fleet entered the area around Saturn, their sensors detected strange objects hidden among the ice and rocks of the rings. "What are those?" Krax demanded. Before anyone could answer, the objects revealed themselves. Hundreds of massive gun platforms had been hidden in Saturn's rings. They had been built in secret over many years, waiting for this moment. "It's a trap," Krax shouted. "Turn around." Too late. The platforms activated at once, firing from all directions. Council ships were caught in deadly crossfire with nowhere to escape. Meanwhile, a small human ship approached the Council flagship unnoticed during the chaos. On board was Special Forces Colonel Do-Yeon Choi and his team of 12 soldiers. "Our target is the Vespid High Hierarch," Do-Yeon told his team. "Intel says he's on this ship to watch Earth's destruction. We take him alive if possible." They attached to the Council flagship and cut through its hull. Alarms sounded as they entered the ship. "Move fast," Do-Yeon ordered. "We won't get a second chance." The team fought their way through alien defenders. 3 humans fell during the first clash. 4 more died reaching the ship's upper levels. Do-Yeon and his remaining team finally reached the command deck. Behind a sealed door, they found what they sought. The Vespid High Hierarch, the same one who had ordered Jiho's death. "For Jiho Kim," Do-Yeon said as they broke through the final door. The Hierarch fought back, killing another soldier with his claws. But in the end, the humans subdued him. "Take him," Do-Yeon ordered. "Earth wants him alive." As they dragged the Hierarch to their ship, Do-Yeon called Admiral Lee on the Retribution *. "Package secured," he reported. "Heading home." Around Saturn, the battle was ending. The Council fleet was in ruins. Those ships that survived were fleeing in all directions. The message spread across Council space. Earth had defeated their greatest fleet, and they had taken the High Hierarch himself. The old courthouse in Geneva was filled to capacity. People from all over Earth had come to witness the trial of the century, the first alien ever to face human justice. The Vespid High Hierarch sat in a special chair designed to hold his insect-like body. Guards stood nearby, weapons ready. Despite being a prisoner, the Hierarch still looked proud. His many eyes stared coldly at the humans around him. Jiho Kim sat in the front row. He had waited months for this day. The man who had ordered his son's death would finally face justice. The Chief Justice, a woman named Jia Song, entered the room. Everyone stood. "Be seated," she said. "Today we begin the trial of the High Hierarch of the Vespid Dominion for the murder of Jiho Kim and crimes against humanity." The Hierarch clicked his mandibles in anger. "I do not recognize this court's authority," he said through a translator. "What happened to the human child was according to our laws." Judge Song looked at him calmly. "You are on Earth now. You will be judged by our laws." The trial began with videos of what happened on the space station. The entire room watched again as Jiho touched the purple shell, as the Vespids seized him, as the Hierarch ordered his death, as the flames consumed the boy while his father screamed. Many people in the courtroom cried. Some had to leave the room. Jiho sat motionless, his eyes never leaving the Hierarch. The prosecutor, a man named Woo Jin-baek, approached the stand. "The evidence is clear," he said. "This individual ordered the death of an 8-year-old child for touching an object. No warning was given. No mercy was shown. The act was cruel and deliberate. The hierarch was allowed to speak in his defense. He stood tall, his voice filled with disdain. "Humans are primitives," he said. "You were not worthy of joining the council. The boy defiled our most sacred relic. Our laws demand cleansing by fire. This has been our way for 10,000 years." Wu Jin pointed at the hierarch. "And does your law require burning children alive?" "Age is irrelevant," the hierarch replied. "Defilement requires cleansing." It was necessary. The courtroom erupted in angry shouts. Judge Song had to call for order. For 3 days, the trial continued. Experts testified about Vespid culture and council laws. Defense lawyers argued that the hierarch was following his species' traditions. Prosecutors showed that even within Vespid law, there were alternatives to death. On the final day, Judge Song asked Tae-woo Kim if he wanted to speak. Tae-woo walked slowly to the front of the courtroom. He faced the hierarch directly. "My son loved learning about aliens," he said quietly. "He would have wanted to understand your people, your culture. He was curious and kind." Tae-woo's voice grew stronger. "When he died, I wanted revenge. I still do. But Jiho would have wanted justice, not vengeance." He turned to the judge. "Whatever your decision, I will accept it. For my son." After hours of deliberation, Judge Song returned with the verdict. "For the murder of Jiho Kim, this court finds the defendant guilty," she announced. The hierarch clicked angrily. "Then execute me and be done with it." The room grew quiet, waiting for the sentence. "The penalty for this crime could be death," Judge Song said. "But that would make us no different from you." She looked directly at the hierarch. "Instead, you are sentenced to life imprisonment. You will live among the species you thought inferior. You will learn our ways, as we have had to learn yours." The hierarch seemed shocked. In Vespid culture, imprisonment was shameful. Death was preferred. As guards led him away, President Mina Han stepped to a microphone outside the courthouse. Her words were broadcast to all council worlds. "Today you witnessed human justice," she said. "We are not you. We do not burn children alive, regardless of our laws. Remember this difference between us." Across the galaxy, many heard her words. Some began to question what they had been told about humans. Others wondered if they had chosen the wrong side in this war. Tae-woo Kim left the courthouse alone. Justice had been done, but it did not bring back his son. 1 year after Jiho's death, the war had changed. Earth was winning. The council was breaking apart. Some species had already surrendered. Others fought on, growing more desperate. Admiral Sunwoo Lee stood on the bridge of the Retribution looking at a map of council space. 12 red dots marked their next targets, major council worlds. "Is everyone in position?" she asked her communications officer. "Yes, Admiral. All 12 attack groups report ready." Sunwoo nodded. This would be the final push, a coordinated attack that would break the council for good. "Send the signal," she ordered. "Operation Justice begins now." Across council space, human fleets jumped into action. Each was led by someone who had lost a child to the council over the years. Not just Jiho, there had been others. Children taken for study. Children killed in accidents. Children who disappeared during diplomatic visits. All covered up, all forgotten by the council, but not by their parents. On the council world Silara, a fleet appeared in orbit. It was led by Captain Hannah Jong, whose daughter had vanished 5 years earlier during a cultural exchange. "No mercy for military targets," she told her crews, "but avoid civilian areas if possible." The Acceleran defenses fell quickly. Their leaders surrendered within hours. On the mining world Trab, Major Juno Park led the attack. His son had been accidentally exposed to radiation during a council inspection of Earth's moon base. "Target their defense grid and government buildings only," he ordered. "Leave their homes standing." The pattern repeated across all 12 worlds. Precise strikes. Minimal civilian casualties. Quick victories. It was not the savage revenge the Council had expected. This made it even more frightening. On the Council homeworld of Centros, the remaining leaders gathered in a panic. They had lost control of most of their territory. Their fleets were defeated. Their worlds were falling one by one. "We must use the stellar lance," said one leader, a tall gray being. "It's our only hope." The stellar lance was their greatest weapon, a device that could destroy an entire star system. They had built it in secret, hoping never to use it. "If we use it on Earth," said another, "perhaps the humans will surrender." The message was sent: surrender or watch your colonies burn, one by one. Director Haijin Kang received the threat in her office on Earth. She had expected this. The Council would never believe that humans had prepared for this too. She opened a secure channel to agents embedded on Centros years ago. They were humans who looked like Council species thanks to advanced disguises. They had worked on the Stellar Lance project from the beginning. "Activate protocol backfire," she ordered. On Centros, 3 engineers received the message. They had built flaws into the Stellar Lance, flaws that no one else knew about. When the Council tried to use it, those flaws would trigger a very different result. The Council leaders gathered to watch as they activated the Stellar Lance. They targeted New Eden, Earth's largest colony. "Fire," ordered the Council leader. The massive weapon powered up. Energy built to impossible levels. But instead of firing outward, the energy turned inward. "Something's wrong," shouted a technician. "The containment fields are failing." The Stellar Lance collapsed in on itself. The energy release was massive but focused. It destroyed the weapon and the fortress surrounding it, but left the rest of Centros intact. In her office, Director Kang received confirmation that the plan had worked. The Council's final weapon was gone. Their leadership bunker was destroyed. She called President Han. "It's done," she said. "The Council leadership is gone. Their weapon is destroyed." President Han nodded. "Send the message to all remaining Council worlds. They have 24 hours to surrender or face full attack." Within hours, the responses began to come in. One by one, the remaining Council worlds surrendered. Some even overthrew their leaders, desperate to make peace with the humans. The war that began with a child's death was coming to an end, but humanity would never forget why they fought. 5 years had passed since Jio Kim's death. The galaxy was a different place now. The Galactic Council no longer existed. In its place stood a new organization, the Interstellar Confederation. On the planet Harmony, once the neutral meeting ground for Council species, a new building had been constructed. Its great hall was filled with representatives from 100 worlds. Some had been Council members. Others had been outside Council space. All were now equal under the new system. Taewoo Kim walked slowly to the central podium. At 55, his hair had turned completely gray. The years of war had left their mark on him. But today, he stood tall as Earth's first ambassador to the Confederation. 5 years ago, he began, "My son Jio was killed because he touched an object he did not understand." His death sparked a war that changed the galaxy forever. The hall was silent. Everyone knew the story. Today, we build something new from the ashes of that conflict. Not an empire, not a council that places some species above others, but a true confederation of equals. On the walls around them hung the flags of all member worlds. Earth's flag was no larger than any other. "Our first act today is to establish the Kim Protocol," Taewoo continued. "It guarantees 3 things. First, no developing species will be interfered with until they are ready for contact. Second, all children, regardless of species, are protected by universal law. Third, cultural practices that harm others will not be protected by claims of tradition or religion." The representatives voted. The motion passed unanimously. In the front row sat President Mina Han, now in her 2nd term. Beside her were Admiral Lee, Director Kang, and others who had led Earth during the war. They had come to witness this historic moment. A Vespid representative approached the podium next. The Vespids had surrendered early in the final campaign. Their new government had rejected the old ways. "We cannot undo what was done," the Vespid said, "but we can learn and change. My people once believed tradition was more important than life. We were wrong." After the ceremony, Tewu visited a special place in the Confederation grounds. Where the old council chamber once stood, there was now a garden. At its center stood a simple statue of a human child reaching toward the stars. Tewu touched the base of the statue, where a plaque read, "In memory of Jiho Kim and all children who reach for the stars. May they always be protected, never forgotten." "I wish you could see this," he whispered to his son's memory. "You helped change the galaxy." As he turned to leave, Tewu noticed something surprising. Representatives from many species were placing small tokens around the statue: flowers, stones, crystals, and other items of remembrance from their worlds. Even more surprising was a group of young Vespids accompanied by their teacher. Each placed a small light near the statue. The teacher explained to them about Jiho and what his death had taught the galaxy. "Ambassador Kim," called a voice. It was Admiral Lee. "The first ships are ready," she said with a smile. "The exploration fleet leaves tomorrow." During the war, humans had focused on defense and survival. Now they could return to exploration. 10 ships would venture beyond known space, seeking new worlds and new species. "I've saved a place for you on the flagship," Admiral Lee said. "It's called the *HS Jiho Kim*. Tewu looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, new discoveries waited. New friends to make. New wonders to see. "Jiho would have loved that," he said. "He always wanted to explore." As the sun set on Harmony, Tewu made his decision. He would join the expedition. He would see the stars his son had loved. He would make sure the lessons of the past were carried into the future. The galaxy had learned that humanity would extend friendship with one hand, but the other remained ready to defend their own. It was a lesson written in fire and blood, but one that had created a better future for all. Somewhere, Tewu liked to think, Jiho was smiling.